Hello and welcome to your yoga class. My name is Maria and today I have a morning heart opener yoga flow. All you're gonna need today is some comfy clothes. You can even just roll out of bed and do this. We're not gonna get too sweaty today. If you have blocks, feel free to bring them along, but if not, I'll also cue without them. We're going to start in a child's pose, so come onto your hands and knees. Take your time getting here. Take your knees out a little bit wider than hip width apart, maybe as wide as the mat or towel or whatever you're using. And then maybe bring the toes to touch back behind you. If you have blocks, leave a little space in between your feet to maybe place 1 or 2 blocks there. Start to sink your hips back towards your heels or back onto those blocks and start to crawl or walk your hands towards the front of the mat. Place your elbows on the ground, option to place your forehead on the ground. This child's pose variation just helps open up through the chest a little bit more. Before we get started, we're just going to take a moment to connect with the breath. Bringing your attention to your breathing, try not to change it. Notice if your inhales are long or short. Notice if your breath is shallow or deep. Start to notice even the temperature maybe of your breath as it goes in through your nose and as you exhale out through your nose. If your nose is stuffy or for whatever reason, feel free to use your mouth here as well. But trying to prioritize when we can breathing through our nose if it feels okay. Start to press into that left hand, lift the forehead off the ground, lift the left elbow off of the ground, start to twist towards the left side a little, lift the right arm, and we're going to thread it underneath the left. And then we're going to place the left elbow back on the ground, forehead back on the ground, or option to bring the right ear onto the ground. Feel free to adjust until it feels right. And one side might be tighter than the other, and that's completely okay. Just adjust in whatever way you need to, just until you feel a gentle stretching sensation. Take 2 more big breaths here, inhaling and exhaling. Start to lift your forehead or head off the ground, push up with your left arm, unthread that right one, and then you're going to thread the left arm underneath the right. Walk the right arm towards the front again. Option to rest your forehead onto the ground or your left ear, left temple. Allow your chest, your heart space, your upper torso to rest over that left arm. Just enough to feel a sensation there. There's no need to push it too much though. 2 big breaths in here as well. In through the nose, out through the nose if that feels good. When you're ready, start to lift your head off of the ground. Push yourself up with your right hand. Unthread that left hand. Walk your hands back towards your pelvis, towards your knees. And then we're just going to use that to lift the hips off of the heels. Bring your knees in just a little bit. Remove the blocks if you are using them. We're going to stack the hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Tuck the toes under here, or option to have the tops of the feet pressing into the earth. Spread all 10 fingers wide and press into that pointer finger, knuckle, and thumb especially. Gaze forward, start to drop the belly, maybe try to pull the chest forward in between the arms. Coming into cow pose, big inhale. And then as you exhale, start to round through the upper back, tuck the tailbone under, maybe gaze past those knees. On your next inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze. As you exhale, tuck the chin under, round through. Inhale, lift the gaze, drop the belly. Exhale, tuck the chin to the chest, belly button tucks up and in. One more time, big inhale, cow pose, drop the belly. Big exhale, cat pose. Round through as if you were a Halloween cat. And we're going to return to a neutral position. Tuck the back toes under. We're going to shift the hips back a little bit. Lift the knees, stay here for a big inhale. And then as you exhale, lift the hips up high, start to straighten out through the knees, but keep a slight bend in them. Heels can be lifted here, coming into downward facing dog. Try to shift the ears so that they're snuggled in between the arms if that feels good. Stretching through the upper and entire back. Start to tiptoe the feet towards the front of the mat, coming into a forward fold. Tuck the chin. Shake your head yes and shake your head no. Option to grasp opposite elbow here. Slight bend in the knees, and then maybe just swing a little bit from side to side, but keeping that movement small. Whenever you're ready, release your elbows, release the swinging, so return to a stillness position in this Uttanasana forward fold. From here, start to walk your hands over to one side, so maybe to the left side, the outer edge of that left foot. If you have blocks here, feel free to bring them to help lift the floor up to you. But slight bend in both knees here. Notice this gentle twist. Maybe you feel a little bit more stretching and opening with the right ribs. Big inhale in, big exhale out. And then slowly walk your fingertips towards the front. And then we're going to walk them over towards the right side, so on the outside of that right edge of the right foot. Option to bring the block here underneath, or just to let your fingertips touch the ground, or just to allow your arms to dangle. Slightly bend that left knee a little more than that right knee to help you twist a little bit more. Opening up through the left side ribs. And then slowly crawl your fingertips back towards center. We're going to do that one more time on each side. But this time stay here for an inhale. And then as you exhale, start to crawl your fingertips towards the left. They can dangle, they can be on blocks. Big inhale towards center. And then exhale takes you over towards the right side. Bring your hands back towards center. Bend your knees deeply. And slowly start to roll up, tuck your chin, bringing the head up last to avoid feeling lightheaded. Lift your arms up towards the sky. Big inhale in. Big exhale, bend the elbows, coming into cactus arms. So it's going to look like this. Stay here for another big breath in, another big breath out. Next inhale, lift your chest. Exhale to twist over to the left side. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale towards the right side. Inhale, back towards center. Exhale towards the left side. This time, drop your arms to make a T, an option to gaze back towards the left fingertips. Then bend the elbows, coming into cactus arms. On your next inhale, come back to center. Exhale over to the right side. Arms out into a T, option to gaze past the back right fingertips. Bend your elbows, cactus arms, and come back to center. One more time just like that. Big inhale in, big exhale out, turn towards the left, arms out into a T, gaze back. Bend your arms, inhale towards center. Exhale towards the back, towards the right. Arms into a T, gaze past the back right fingertips. Then bend the elbows, big inhale takes you back towards center. Drop your arms, relax them by your sides. Now bring your hands to the back, to the low back. So maybe imagine that you're putting your hands into your back pockets. Tuck the elbows back, draw them back towards one another. Maybe your chest automatically opens. Your shoulder blades start to come closer to one another. Maybe lift your gaze. Gentle back bend here. Big inhale in, big exhale out, relax the shoulders, and then release. Bring the elbows back to normal and bring the arms back down. This time, interlace your fingertips behind your low back. Another option, if you have a block, is to bring the block and grab onto the block behind your low back. Either way, we're going to try to bring the knuckles, draw them towards the earth as we straighten out through the elbows. They don't have to be completely straight. They can be bent It's just that motion of drawing them towards the earth as you start to lift your chest. Maybe lift your gaze, open up through the throat area. Big inhale in. Exhale, relax your shoulders away from your ears. Maybe squeeze your shoulder blades a little more together. And release the grip, release your hands. Take the block and place it down. Lift your arms up towards the sky. Take a big inhale in. Exhale, brings the hands together. Thumbs to heart center. Gentle bend in the knees. Start to bend in the hips. Slowly folding over your legs. Place your hands in front of your feet. Step one foot back and then the other. Drop the knees here. We're going to come into a tabletop position. Stacking the hands underneath the shoulders. Stacking the knees underneath the hips. Drop your elbows to a place where your hands were. We're going to come into a gentle puppy pose. One option is to stay here. Another option is to start to shift your shoulders back, straightening out through the arms. You can walk your knees back if you need a little bit more room here. And then option to place the forehead onto the ground, coming into a puppy pose. Try to stack your hips over your knees. Press into the tops of the feet here, or toes can be tucked under. Try to engage a little bit through your core here to allow the stretch to come more so from the upper back. If your shoulders feel a little tight here, feel free to walk your elbows out a little bit so elbows can come out towards the edges of the mat. Hands can stack on top of one another, or your hands can be planted onto the earth. Take another big inhale in here. Big exhale out. Slowly start to lift the forehead. Engage the core to walk your knees back towards center, coming into this forearm tabletop position. Take a big inhale in here. Big exhale out. And then start to crawl your knees back again, but this time we're going to drop the hips, not the shoulders. We're going to come into a Sphinx pose. Feel free to walk the elbows forward a little bit if your shoulders feel a little tight here. Press into both hip bones, press into the tops of the feet here, and maybe engage through the quads, squeeze the glutes, maybe the knees lift. Try to stay active through the bottom half of the legs. And then as we move up, press your elbows into the earth. But at the same time you're here, keep everything where it is, but try to actively draw your elbows towards your hip bones to allow your chest and your heart space to open up a little bit more. Take a big inhale in, big exhale out. And then move your elbows out to either side, just bringing your entire forehead and chest to the earth. Bring your hands underneath your shoulder tips. Tuck the elbows back, draw them towards one another. On your next inhale, start to lift just your chest, push into your hip bones. And then exhale, chest comes down, forehead comes down. One more time, big inhale, lift your chest. And exhale, forehead comes down. Bring your hands down by your sides. And then this time we're going to interlace them behind our low back once again. If you have a block close by, feel free to bring that and grab onto that instead. And we're going to reach towards the back of the mat this time, straightening through the arms, lifting the chest as you do that. Maybe your chest lifts off the ground, maybe your chin lifts off the ground. Take a big inhale in, big exhale out. Relax your chest towards the ground. One more time. Start to straighten through the arms. If your fingers are interlaced, just draw the knuckles towards your feet. Maybe that allows you to lift your chest. And exhale back down to the ground. Place your hands underneath your shoulder tips. Tuck the back toes under. Push your torso up into your knees. And then coming into a tabletop position once again. Crawl the knees forward. Just come into a kneeling position. Lift your hands off of the ground. And then if you have a mat or if you have a pillow or something, feel free to roll the mat up if you need a little bit more support under your knees. We're going to come into a kneeling position. Lift the hips off of your heels. And option to tuck the toes, back toes under here. Another option is to press the tops of the feet into the ground, but having the back toes under, I think, makes it a little bit more open and accessible, but feel free to do whatever you want. Maybe you try them both out. Place your hands down onto your low back, how we did before when we were in the mountain pose. Imagine that you're placing your hands into some back pockets. Rotate your shoulders up, around, and back, and maybe draw your elbows towards one another, starting to bring the shoulder blades closer to one another. Chest maybe starts to lift up naturally. Option to stay here. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more sensation, option to lift your gaze up towards the sky. Squeeze your glutes and try to push your hips a little bit forward. Big inhale in here. Big exhale out. If you'd like to come out of it, engage the core and come into a seated position. Option to stay here. Another option is to bring your hands maybe to reach towards your feet. If you have blocks, feel free to come out of this a little bit, place the blocks behind each of those feet so that when you reach back, you can just reach back and touch those blocks to help lift your chest up. And wherever you are, take another big inhale in, big exhale out, and then start to sink the hips towards the heels. If you had your mat rolled up, feel free to unroll it. If you have the blocks here, feel free to move them aside. Place your hands onto the ground. Bring your knees into a wide-legged child's pose. Once again, to finish off the flow, start to crawl your hands forward, sink your hips back towards your heels. Another option again is to have the blocks to bring your sitting bones onto. And start to slowly and gently rest your forehead onto the earth. Or place your hands under your forehead for a little bit of support there. Every inhale, imagine that you're sending the breath to your low back, lower belly, expanding through the side ribs. And as you exhale, maybe allow your chest to relax a little bit more towards the earth. Find a little bit more softening, a little bit more release. Inhales fill you up. Exhales allow you to soften a little bit more. 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale to fill up. Exhale, soften through the chest. Maybe allow it to relax. 1 more big breath in. 1 more big breath out. Whenever you're ready, slowly lift your forehead off of the ground. Walk your hands back to your knees. Remove any blocks or props. Feel free to stay in that child's pose for however long you'd like if it felt good. Otherwise, feel free to move on with the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this yoga flow helps you get energized and started for your day. If this felt good, feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know how it went for you. Hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with all new yoga videos. So if you have any requests, feel free to DM me, leave them in the comments, contact me however you want.